Hey guys, this video we're going to take a look at percussion and the snare. Let's do it. When I say percussion, I mean a little tiny bit of hats. That's really all I've done. And again, if you go back to the playlist, especially with the midnight tracks, very, very little hats and percussion stuff going on. I tried to add more, but it didn't really get me anywhere. So let's have a look at this. So we've already heard the kick and bass, but what I want you to hear in total now is the hi-hats and the snare. Now it's worth noting I've got hi-hat 1, closed hi-hat 1, closed hi-hat 2. They're used in different parts of the tracks for varying purposes and reasons, which we'll have a listen to later, but fundamentally closed hi-hat 1 plays all the way through, and closed hi-hat 2, which is a much more urgent pattern, is only occurring in the chorus. So it's there to lift the chorus. I'm mentioning it now because you'll see it disappear a little bit later on. And then the snare. Now, one controversial thing I'm going to say here. In synthwave, the snare is more important than the kick. I'm going to say it again. The snare is more important than the kick. Controversial perhaps, but I believe true. So let's listen to it. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? The snare is everything. So if we listen to, let me just turn these off. We'll bring them in one by one. First hi-hat is just an 8th note. Really very quiet. In fact, it's so quiet I haven't even EQ'd it. Let's just have a look at this quickly. I'm a naughty boy. Yeah, I mean, it's really going to have no effect on the overall mix, but ideally, you're going to want to take that out. And let's bring in the next hi-hat. So you can see what's going on here. Let's just solo this hi-hat group. That's the 8th note, that's the driving hat. And this is the urgent hat. The hi-hat 2 is running on a 16th pattern. And again, I haven't EQ'd it. But these are so low in volume, it probably doesn't matter that much. Now, as I said, hi-hat 1 is there just as a driving background kind of hi-hat. Hi-hat 2, it's because it's running at double the tempo, 16th notes, as opposed to 8th notes. I've introduced that in the chorus. You will already heard the track playing full in the intro, but it's possibly not perceivable until you're told about it. It's that kind of thing. So go back and listen to it now if you want. We will have a look at it again later on, hopefully, if I remember. But really, you know, taking this... Right, so I've got hi-hat 1 on now. Have a listen to the perception of tempo of the track when I introduce hi-hat 2. Do you know what I mean? It kind of lifts the tempo of the track. We're not running at a different tempo, obviously, but it makes the track feel faster. And that's the purpose of me having these two things on the face of it doing similar kinds of things. But again, we'll look at that later. And then finally, in fact, the hi-hat group, I've just got a saturator on it just to crunch it up a little bit. Let's have a listen to that on and off. So that's fairly clean. Saturated, it just adds that little bit of bite, and that can help these sounds push through the mix without making them louder. That's why I've done that. But that's really it. That's the entirety of my percussion hi-hats in this track. That's all I've done. There is a lot of crashes in the effects and the transitions and that kind of thing, but in terms of driving, drums, this is it. That's all I've done. So the snare. Now this is the important bit of percussion. So I've used Synthwave Snare 27 from the Sonic Academy pack, which is down here. So that's my starting point. Loads of snares to choose from in this pack. But that's my starting point. That's the one I felt worked best. But it sounds very different now. So let's have a look at what we've done. So first things first, you can probably tell I've transposed it up a semitone because I felt it fit the track better, transposed up. I haven't done anything else to it on the sampler itself. Now we've got, if I double click this open, I've got a reverb as an insert. We do have reverb sends as well, which is not something I usually do, but I do have some send effects on this track just to do something a little bit different. But the reason we've got it as an insert on the snare is because I wanted to gate it, which we'll have a look at in a second. So let's come over to the other effects and just switch everything off. So I've got utility doing the levels, EQ, gate, compressor. And I've got an EQ again. So let's just hear the raw snare with the reverb.